Hello, welcome to another FiddleHed fiddle lesson. Today I'm going to do another lesson on intervals on the violin. Sounds scientific and mathematical, but I guess it kind of is, but it's mainly a way to make you play better in tune that is, and a way to hear better, to hear fiddle tunes and pick up music more quickly by ear. So that's why we're doing it. And I say that because it may come off sounding a little bit dry doing these exercises, but it will help you tremendously. So I really think you should do it. You should watch this whole video, and I'll just tell you that it's going to be fun. We're going to do it, and I'm going to make it fun for you. Okay? So here we go. I'll just play a little bit of all the intervals we're going to do, so you can get a taste of it. Okay, so basically when you first learn the fiddle, you're playing very short intervals like scales. They're called whole step and half steps. I did a video that leads up to this on intervals on a single string, like open to 2, 1 to 3, and open to 3, all on one string. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do intervals across the string. So, if you don't already know this D scale, I have a video for that. If you don't already know intervals on one string, watch that video. And then now we're going to start with this particular interval. We're going to start with second finger on D, going to open A. Practice lifting it at first, because then you can practice finding it again. And when you lift your fingers, try not to lift them too much. I'm barely lifting it. Give you another angle right here. Alright, good, good. So that's second on D to open A. And you can make that more interesting by adding rhythms, triplets. Or we can do something, a more kind of complex rhythm like 2 on D to open A, back to 2 on D, and then start it over. Kind of a triplet rhythm. Alright? Now let's try another one. Let's try, before we do that, another thing you can do is to practice it with the second finger down. This will be very useful for doing fast string crossing things. So for instance, keep the second down and play the open A. Notice my second now is not moving. So 2 ways to practice these intervals: fingers lifting and fingers down. Both very useful. And if you're able to do that holding it down, it allows you to do things like that, which happens a lot in fiddling. Now this is hard, holding it down. And a tip is to cheat over a little bit away. If I have my second on the D and open A, to kind of cheat away from the A. And I'll show you this angle. So to do that, my second finger is almost is actually touching the G string a little bit. It's kind of planted in between the G and the D. Alright? I'm showing you all this because what we're trying to do is clear the A string. Because if your finger's even slightly touching the A string, you'll get weird kind of sounds. So if you're experiencing that, it means that you've got to move that finger away. And that kind of idea is going to apply to everything we do today. So I won't explain it in as much detail afterward. Okay, cool. So we did second finger to A. Here's another big one. Third finger on D to open A. Practice lifting it. Now that's not that big of an interval, but it's worth going over because it's very hard for beginners, and it's used a lot in the scales and all kinds of tunes. Like if you're playing a D scale, and then when you go down, you've got to go from open A to that third on D. And that's very hard for a lot of students, so I suggest spending a lot of time doing that. Now, all the intervals I'm going to show you today are on D and A strings. But I suggest once you get them there, you try them on G and D strings and A and E strings. The same things apply. So I'll just show you quickly how to transpose that. On G, you could do the same, like third on G to open D. Alright, and then the same thing going A to E. Alright, but for the rest of the lesson we'll concentrate on D to A. Alright, so we've done 2 intervals so far. Let's do another somewhat easy one. Let's do open A. It's open D to first on A. Okay, good. Let's do first on D to second on A with 2 bows. Try holding both fingers down. Try it with a rhythm. Ho down. Okay, good. Let's now try second on D to third on A with the ho down. One more interval I'm going to give you, and by the way, all these I'm summarizing in the description below, so in case you want to just kind of get a quick overview of what we've done, I have kind of like left-hand tablature of that in the description below. Alright, so the last one we'll do is open D to third on A, and we're not really talking a lot about the note names, but this one is useful to know that third on the A is a higher octave of the D. So we're basically playing a low D, and when we play A3, that's another higher D. Just practice holding it down. Also practice lifting it so you get practice finding that note. But don't lift it too much. Lift it a little. Alright, lastly, I'm going to just give you some ideas for practicing these kind of dry intervals and making them more fun, putting them together into like little riffs and things. So how about, I'm just going to make some stuff up and you take it and run with it. Practice it over and over again. Make up your own exercises, make up your own combinations of intervals, and you just may write yourself a tune. You might write your first tune. And just because you're a beginner doesn't mean it's not a good tune. It might be great. Just some simple, nice little ditty. So, but anyway, even if you don't, these are good things to practice. So let's see, let's do open. So I'm doing open to 1 on A, open D to 1 on A, 1 on D to 2 on A, 2 on D to 3 on A. Here's that up close. I'm going to repeat that one, and that kind of sounds like a cool little melody, so I'm going to cycle that. Let's double the notes. Triplet the notes. Hoe down the notes. Well, there's a lot more combinations you could do with all the intervals I taught you today. I'll let you explore them on your own, and if you come up with something cool, record it and send it to me or something. Maybe I'll listen to it, and maybe it's a great little thing you've come up with, alright? Anyhow, if you have any questions, feel free to comment, send them to me, and if this was helpful, let me know, and if it could be improved, let me know. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. So long.
Thanks for watching.